Hey everybody, Smitty here. Yes, it is Smitty. Don't be fooled by the baseball hat. I'm baseball hat Smitty today, and there's a reason for that. I wanted to get this video done for you, and then I gotta run out to a doctor's appointment. So please don't hold it against me. I will be back to my regular professional self tomorrow. But again, this is such an important topic. I really wanted to get this video out to y'all. So today we're going to cover main idea and supporting details. And what does that mean to us? It means that authors make decisions, right? Well, there's news for you. So there's a reason for everything. Sometimes the entire piece has a main idea. This is not theme. That's something different that we're going to do a few weeks from now. And sometimes the author includes paragraphs or chunks of paragraphs within the bigger piece to convey a main idea. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at the main idea of an entire passage, the main idea of smaller passages or paragraphs within a larger piece, and we're going to try to find the details that lead us to figure out the main idea. Finding the big idea is important, and you're going to be asked to do this a lot. So what do you need to do? This is what the story is mostly about. So this, again, is not theme. This is what kind of details are you being given that give you an idea of what this story is mostly about. The content of the paragraphs themselves will support this big main idea that you come up with, and the plot will also reveal the main idea. Easy, right? No, you're like, what does that even mean? Well, let me tell you. The best camping trip of his life. Now, this passage is, this piece is familiar to you because we used it for one of your benchmarks, so I wanted to use this one again. David couldn't wait to get off from work, for he had an exciting weekend planned. He and his 7-year-old son, Landon, were going on a camping trip. As David drove toward the Greenville suburb where Landon lived with his mother, the guilt gnawed at him. He hated that since the divorce nearly a year ago, he had not spent the quality time with Landon that he now wished he had. The 2-hour drive to Landon's new home only complicated the wish for more frequent visits. David decided he was not going to dwell on the past, but instead look to the future. This weekend camping trip was just what they needed. When David arrived, Landon met him at the door, grinning like someone who'd just won the lottery. An hour later, they were setting up camp. Before long, they headed to the creek bank with fishing poles in hand. As they each sat on a 5-gallon bucket, few words were spoken, but David knew that old wounds were healing. As Landon reeled in a tiny brim, he looked over at his dad and said, "You know what, Dad? This is the most fun I've ever had." Even though his throat was tightening in an effort to hold back tears, David managed to say, "Me too, son. Me too." Aw. Anyway, the guilt gnawed at him. That's one of our supporting details, right? Shazam, we pulled it out of there. What are we seeing in common here? We're seeing guilt is gnawing at him. He wishes for more frequent visits. But Landon says, "This is the most fun I've ever had." But he still feels like since the divorce nearly a year ago, he had not spent the quality time with Landon that he wanted to. And here's Landon again, grinning like someone who just won the lottery. So we have all of these supporting details that we pulled out of this entire 2 paragraphs, and we start to see a trend here. Well, I think the author's main idea is that David definitely felt guilty about not spending time with Landon and maybe feels like he's losing his relationship with Landon, but Landon confirms that everything's okay. So when we're asked about what the main idea was, you could easily say David was worried about his relationship with his son since the divorce. That's what we get from this. We get from this that there's a man worried about his relationship, but feels better at the end of it because Landon confirms that they're okay. And that's what main idea is all about. What is this mostly about? What repeating ideas or descriptions do we see in a piece of literature that leads us to a main idea? So, did y'all get that? Sensei Cat says, "Well done, grasshoppers." Very good job. All right, let's keep her going here. Now we're going to look at something a little smaller. We're going to get chunky, okay? I'm not chunky. I'm Bob. I hope y'all get that because I thought it was funny. So we're going to start chunking now. Now, the other thing that's important with authors is sometimes they choose to include certain paragraphs or chunks of paragraphs altogether within a piece of fiction because authors make a decision to do what? Well, they make a decision to separate paragraphs from other paragraphs because they convey a complete main idea. So within that little paragraph, you actually have this big main idea. Chunk a group of paragraphs or sentences to convey a complete main idea. What does that mean? Well, it means we have this big, huge passage or 2 paragraphs like we just read, and there's a point to it. Okay, the author makes sure that he's making a point through his characters. And then the last one we saw, the big main idea, the big point was David is upset. Sometimes fathers are upset because of divorces. That's the big main idea. But sometimes authors include paragraphs within their own big piece that also has a main idea. And again, that's a decision that the author makes, because within these paragraphs and chunks are all the details you need to figure out the main idea. So what does that even mean? I know it's a lot, so let's keep going and see if we can figure this out. Remember our setting and character paragraphs from the Techniques and Elements of Fiction 2 video? If not, you should review that. Well, we saw a paragraph within a passage that said that basically went like this. You figured out that the author included a ton of descriptions in this paragraph about the setting so we could imagine the setting in our mind. So what was his purpose? What was the main idea? The main idea was the setting is a pleasant, beautiful place. And the details were all of the pleasant, beautiful descriptions. That's why he included it. Okay? Then there was another author who included a whole paragraph where we figured out that the author included a ton of descriptions about the character so we could imagine the character. Why did he do that? The main idea was this is a hardworking man, and the details were all of the characteristics of a hardworking man. So all we needed was that paragraph included in that big, large piece of fiction in order to figure some things out. So what does that mean? Basically, I want to know, what decisions did the author make when they wrote these paragraphs or these passages? So concentrate, think about it. What decisions did the author make? Let's ask him. Decision. I need to include paragraphs that describe my setting as beautiful for my reader, and I need a paragraph that describes my character as hardworking for my reader. Bam! He made a decision, and he purposely included these paragraphs so that we could get a setting description and we could get a character description. Okay, so from there, a paragraph was born. I love my setting paragraph. Isn't she beautiful? So that brings us to a review. Authors make decisions. What's up? Smitty, you've been saying that for 2 weeks now. It's kind of annoying, actually. What decisions are they? Sometimes the entire piece has a main idea. Actually, it always does. The entire piece has a main idea, and you may be asked what that main idea is. So you look in all the paragraphs to find the big main idea, and you find things in common that lead you to a main idea. But sometimes the author includes paragraphs or chunks of paragraphs to convey another main idea, like a smaller one, inside of the story. So he may include a paragraph to describe the setting because he needs you to understand that the setting is beautiful. That's the main idea. And finally, we can find supporting details in the plot and content of the bigger stories and find the main idea of an entire piece by analyzing what that content is. Easy enough. If you don't feel like you get this right now, it's okay. We're going to read a piece together and make sure that you get it in our class. See you then.